Have a good
Great
weekend,
job. It's a
guys.
great week. We'll see you next week. Have a great weekend.
Okay, you bet.
So the media has been using certain language to manipulate the public, to make them believe that things were happening in the Freedom Convoy that were not happening or were highly exaggerated. There was so much love there, so much love. It was so healing after being silenced for so long.
For what it's worth, I always hear the Freedom Convoy every day. That exactly mirrors my experience. And yeah, I even think just basically the term anti-vaxxer is nonsense to begin with. Rachel, thanks so much. That was amazing.
Thank you. And, we just have to keep standing up for Tamara and for the people in the Freedom Convoy. They stood up for us. Now it's our turn to have their back.
Robert Krychek here, Ottawa, Ontario, outside the Ottawa courthouse at the conclusion of day 4 of the trial of Tamara Lich and Chris Barber. There are two major takeaways. In the first half of the day, the judge repeatedly expressed her dissatisfaction with how the prosecution was seeking to delineate particular types of evidence. She said that she was, quote, very unhappy at least 3 times in response to the Crown's attempt to narrow certain types of evidence regarding chat logs that it had obtained from presumably Lich's and Barber's mobile devices from encrypted chat programs like Signal and WhatsApp. The Crown wants to specifically use certain of those chats as part of its pursuit of a conviction, and the judge is saying that this sort of violates disclosure policies by making it very difficult for the defense to simply respond right away. The judge says this should have been done by August 1st. So that was something that was not going well for the prosecution. Secondarily, in the second half of the day, the prosecution played video of a press conference in which Chris Barber and Tamara Lich attended, which was hosted primarily by Tom Marazzo, who was a volunteer for the Freedom Convoy. This was at a time towards the end of the demonstration when Marazzo and the rest were expecting a violent police takedown of the demonstration. They were seeing police aggregate and collect around. Now, in this presser, Marazzo is speaking to other Canadians, to supporters, inviting them, urging them to come down to Ottawa if they can and to demonstrate peacefully. He used that word over and over: peaceful protest, peaceful assembly. He was inviting Canadians to show their support, but emphasized that completely. He didn't want to have any violence, any contentiousness with police, as he expected the police to use force to take the convoy down. Now, why is this important? Because it undermines the prosecution's core claim that it laid out in its opening statement on day 1, in which the prosecution derisively described the Freedom Convoy as a demonstration that was, quote, anything but peaceful. Yet here the prosecution goes again, undermining its own case with its own evidence. We at Rebel News want you to keep following us and stay up to date on this trial with our reports. Please go to tamaratrial.com. And for those who can and are able and willing to assist Tamara offset her legal costs, please go to helptamara.com. Now, we were fortunate to speak with some attendees, some observers here at the courthouse, and we'll show that to you right now.
I did. Isn't it nice?
She stole my flag.
I didn't.
She just stole my flag.
Yeah, you can have
She
the
just
video.
stole my flag, took it across the
They
street.
have the video. Clearly wasn't me.
That was you.
Oh, clearly wasn't me. I didn't touch it
you.
till it was on stop.
They ever leave you home?
I dropped my joint somewhere. Maybe it's what.
So I'm here with Allie. Is it fair, Allie, to describe you as a concerned, interested citizen?
Yes, that would be correct.
So, Allie, you were telling me earlier that you attended the Freedom Convoy several weekends in a row.
Yeah.
You're from Toronto, so you made a pretty big commitment to come down here and experience it for yourself. So what I wanted to ask you was how your observations, your experiences, contrast with the prosecution's description of the Freedom Convoy as, quote, anything but peaceful. How would you respond to that in terms of what you saw?
Did they go to the same thing that I went to? Yeah, I spent 3 weekends there. We drove from Toronto late on a Friday night, just like crashed at a hotel, stayed all day Saturday, and drove back home to Toronto. And it was the most remarkable experience of my life, and I didn't experience any violence. We went with kids, we saw people playing chess, we saw people handing out crock pots of food, we saw people giving away books. People sent me with envelopes full of money to give out to truckers.
Wow.
And, like 3 weekends is a pretty good sample size, realistically, for a regular person that that doesn't live here.
Right.
And so whenever I see them claiming that there's violence it's always like, well, prove it. Like, prove it. We are all live streaming. All of this is available to show. But I think when there's an idea set in motion, they don't feel like they need to prove it to show their evidence.
You were there at the Freedom Convoy, at least on some occasion, right? What I wanted to ask you about is how you would describe your experience relative to how the prosecution, how the Crown described it. So in the opening statement, the Crown said that the Freedom Convoy was, quote, anything but peaceful. So how would you respond to that in terms of your experiences being here at the Freedom Convoy yourself, with your own eyes, ears?
So I had been working, being forced to social distance and isolate, and experiencing a very, very lonely, oppressive time in my life where it was like, I need to, keep my head down, just try to do the right thing, try to get through this. Hopefully things will just blow over. And so I wasn't speaking up, but I got so fed up that I went to the Freedom Convoy because enough is enough. And there were people coming up and hugging me. It was a great time in Canada. I was so proud. There were so many great Canadians there from all walks of life. I mean, people who were frontline workers that have been forced to leave their jobs. People were like, thank you for being here. This is a proud moment for Canada. There were church services being held in front of Parliament, people praying. The media has slandered people, claiming that they're anti-vaxxers. First of all, a lot of people aren't even anti-vax. Some are, some aren't. But a lot of people are just anti-COVID vax. And so the media has been using certain language to manipulate the public, to make them believe that things were happening in the Freedom Convoy that were not happening or were highly exaggerated. There was so much love there, so much love. It was so healing after being silenced for so long.
For what it's worth, I always hear the Freedom Convoy every day. That exactly mirrors my experience. And yeah, I even think just basically the term anti-vaxxer is nonsense to begin with. Rachel, thanks so much. That was amazing.
Thank you. And, we just have to keep standing up for Tamara and for the people in the Freedom Convoy. They stood up for us. Now it's our turn to have their back.
But I was sharing with you how I had several friends come up to me and say, Ali, we thought you were crazy until we watched the live streams alongside the mainstream news, and nothing was the same. And that's cool because, we are about trying to get people to understand what's happening here and go beyond the propaganda. And it's very interesting how, people can be more inclined to trust maybe like a social graphic online than their own friend. Yeah. And I know that it has awoken a lot of people, and I wish that this would get more coverage so people understand the significance of what's happening to Tamara and Chris, but can't change everybody.
I worked security for 5 years, and I did 1.5 years of COVID screening unvaccinated and in a courthouse. And then I was forced to leave my job because I refused the vaccine after 1.5 years of COVID screening unvaccinated. So there's a lot of corruption going on here, and the Freedom Convoy, they were basically just sticking up for the rest of us who felt too afraid to speak out for the longest time.
If you value and appreciate our on-the-ground, in-the-field reporting, please understand we can't do this for free. We need your support. Please go to tamaratrial.com and chip in what you can so we can keep the news coming to you.